Hello there, my name is Eugene Anangwe, and this is a CNBC Africa special. In November last year, RwandAir took delivery of its first dedicated cargo aircraft as it looks to expand its cargo operation in Africa and the Middle East. In this CNBC Africa special, I speak to Yvonne Makolo, the Chief Executive Officer of RwandAir, on the national carrier's outlook in the aviation space. Thank you so much for making time to speak to us on CNBC Africa. I want us to roll back the arms of the clock and take you to 24th of November. 24th of November, RwandAir, received its very fast Boeing 737-800 freighter. My question on this one is, what informed taking this direction of going cargo, especially when it comes to your business plan as RwandAir? What's informing this decision?
What we've seen with Rwanda is the growth of the cargo revenue stream right through the pandemic as well. We've been transporting cargo in the belly of our aircrafts, especially the wide-body aircrafts, and we've seen even through the pandemic the volumes growing double digits. We've seen exports in Rwanda shooting up almost over 1,000% between 2017 and now. So there's a great demand for cargo capacity, especially for fresh produce that's being exported from Rwanda. So we export a lot of cut flowers, vegetables, avocados, chilies to the UAE, Brussels and London. So we needed a cargo freighter to supplement our current belly capacity. So that's what informed it. And going forward, we believe cargo will be a very, very strong revenue stream. We're putting a lot of focus on that. As RwandAir, we've just taken over the management of the cargo warehouse here at the airport. So there's a lot of potential, not only with RwandAir, but also for a lot of other airlines in terms of cargo.
When you sit in the boardroom meetings or to reevaluate this decision, does it scare you? Do you regret taking that route in terms of the numbers? What are we seeing so far in terms of return on investment?
It's still early, but as I mentioned, we're seeing a lot of demand, especially on the outbound. We've been focusing a lot on the UAE route with the cargo freighter. We're seeing the volumes before the cargo freighter came in, and now it's grown to the volumes have grown by over 15%. But that's the freighter together with the A330 carrying the produce. So no regrets. We believe that having the capacity, when you build it, they will come. For the exporters, it'll encourage them to produce even more. And for the importers as well, to let them know that we do have a lot of capacity on the freighter, that they should take advantage of that.
Right. So when you say 15% growth, yes. It's 15% from what to what?
Okay, just to give you an example, in October to the UAE market, we transported over 135 tons of fresh produce. What we're seeing in February is over 220 tons of produce. So we are seeing a significant increase in terms of the uplift of exports.
Yeah, the cargo plane must be feeling very lonely, being the only one around. When does it get its siblings? When do you build up the fleet?
We will definitely continue building the fleet. As demand grows, we are looking at acquiring additional freighters down the road.
Right. No timelines?
No exact timelines right now, but it is in the plan.
It is in the plan.
Yes.
Right. Today, RwandAir is actually able to access 17 African countries, if I'm not wrong, under the recently launched Single African Air Transport Market Pilot Program. I want to talk to us a bit about what you think needs to be done to ensure that we fast track the realization of the aspirations of the African Union to advance the liberalization of the civil aviation in Africa. What needs to be done?
Well, in terms of SATM, the Single African Air Transport Market, that's really the key in unlocking connectivity within the African continent. It's unfortunate that only 35 countries out of the 54 in the continent are signatories to this. I'm happy that we're starting with the coalition of the willing, so to speak, the ones who are ready to go, the 17. But it is important that we have everybody on board because without open skies, if we continue operating with these restrictive bilateral air service agreements that we have, we'll never get to where we need to get to in terms of aviation in our continent. This is a continent that has a lot of potential. We're talking about 1.4 billion people in the continent, but it accounts for 2% of global aviation, which is a shame. And given the fact that road connectivity is really difficult for a lot of countries, and there's very limited rail transport, aviation is really the answer. And again, in the context of the African Continental Free Trade Area, it's really imperative that we remove all these barriers so that we can easily connect our countries and give our citizens an opportunity to move across different countries. Yeah. But to that end, it's not only about open skies. You can't have open skies and closed borders. So along with the open skies, we also need to see visa regimes changing within the African continent. We've seen what Rwanda has done in terms of allowing nationals of all countries to come into the country and get visa on arrival. We've seen what that has done for the country in terms of tourism, in terms of events and conferences, in terms of sports tourism. So if Rwanda can do it, and other African countries should really move in that direction in order to make aviation an enabler, an economic enabler that it's supposed to be, not a luxury for just a few.
It is true. And when you speak to your peers, what sense do you read from the ground in terms of commitment to actually achieve this? 17 is quite a small number looking at the nature of the size of the continent. Yeah,
17 is a small number, but we have to start somewhere, because if we wait for everybody else to sign and implement, we'll be waiting for a very long time. And it's not only for airlines. We're talking about speaking the same language, airlines, the civil aviation authorities, the governments, and really understanding the advantage of having open skies. We have countries who are willing to do it, others who are not, but we hope with this pilot program that the other countries will see the advantages of it and eventually implement it as well.
Talking of the willing, Qatar Airways is really willing to pump its investments into Rwanda. How far is this deal?
Well, we've been in discussions for a few years now. We're at the tail end of the discussions, and we're hoping to conclude soon. We're very excited about this partnership. From an airline perspective, it's fantastic. It'll enable RwandAir to grow into a very strong airline with increased connectivity, superior customer experience for the country. For Rwanda, it will position Rwanda as a strong regional hub. The construction of the new airport is ongoing, where Qatar has majority shareholding. We're excited about that airport as well, because it will really allow the airline to grow to its full potential.
Yeah. When you say soon, I mean, there's someone probably who's wondering when is soon?
I don't have an exact timeline, but for me, sooner rather than later. But as I said, we are really at the tail end of it.
Right.
And we're hoping to conclude in the coming months.
Right. Coming months at least gives some sense of timeline. CEO, I mean, you've been expanding your route networks over the years. Let's talk a bit about the Kigali-London route. How is it doing?
Oh, it's doing very, very well. We started the London route in 2017, where it was tagged with Brussels. We've seen the demand growing significantly, which is why we made the decision to untag London from Brussels and operate directly. We used to operate 3 times a week. We're operating 4 now directly to Heathrow. We're looking at increasing to daily flights by the end of, hopefully by the end of this year.
Yeah. And when is probably US direct coming?
The US, that's still that's still under discussion. We're looking at that as well.
Okay. Yeah. Talking of lessons learned, you've mentioned about the cargo having been prompted. Okay, we could say somehow in a way by the COVID-19 pandemic, but of course it must have been within your pipeline in terms of your investment plan. What else has COVID-19 made you change as an airline in terms of adaptability, sustainability? What more do you think we'll be seeing from Rwanda out of this?
Well, COVID had a huge impact for the airline, not just RwandAir, but all airlines across the world. But with it came some, we'd call it silver lining, I suppose, if you look at it that way, not only from a cargo perspective, but it also prompted us to rethink how we do business, reevaluate our routes. We had to cancel a lot of our thinner routes. We had to shrink pretty much in order to grow again. So we're really focused on growing the routes which are performing well, increasing frequencies on those routes, and then gradually resuming some of the ones that we had suspended, and even bringing in new ones going forward. So it's taught us to really be leaner and faster and more adaptable. It was a huge shock. We know this will not be the last thing that will disrupt the industry, but now we're more prepared in terms of how to navigate a crisis like this.
Right. Something else that is actually pushing or becoming a buzzword today is climate change, and of course we're talking about sustainability. And I want to understand, from where you sit as RwandAir, what are you doing to reduce your environmental impact when it comes to the areas of emissions and other areas of waste management as an airline?
In terms of carbon emissions, RwandAir, along with all the IATA member airlines, are signatories to net zero by 2050. So currently we're tracking our carbon emissions. We're reporting our carbon emissions. We are also working very hard in terms of our fuel efficiency program to see how we can reduce the amount of fuel that we actually consume, in terms of how the pilots are flying, the routes that we're using, really to maximize and be more efficient on that front. We're trying as much as possible in terms of plastics, the use of plastics, and we know Rwanda is a champion in terms of that, reducing that as much as possible without compromising hygiene and safety on board. So we have a number of programs that we're looking at. We're following very closely in terms of what's happening in terms of sustainable aviation fuel. And seeing how that can support our initiatives without increasing our costs. So this is something that's that we're really keeping a close eye on, and we want to be part of it, especially since Rwanda is really focused on the green economy.
Right. You've mentioned IATA, and by now I'm sure your notebook in terms of preparations when you become the chair, board of governors for IATA, is probably filling up. And I want you to just let us in on those notes. What are you planning in terms of your agenda?
Well, first it's very exciting that finally we'll have a woman chair of the board of governors, and hopefully this will be the start of many more female chairpersons. For me, it's really working with the board. I've been on the board of governors for a few years now, working along with the board members to really support the IATA management in fulfilling its mandate. It'll be very exciting to push the diversity agenda to have more women in aviation, and supporting IATA's initiative of 25 by 2025. The issue of sustainability is a strong one. So for me, it's really how to support the board of governors and to support the management of IATA to fulfill its mandate.
Right. And overall now, in terms of your long-term plans for growth, innovation, in terms of your impact for communities that you serve, what does it look like the next 2-3 years?
Well, for RwandAir, our mandate is really to support the development of this country, to ensure Rwanda is connected to other African countries and the rest of the world, and to connect Africa to the rest of the world. So that's what we're really focused on. To that end, we are looking at opening up new routes down the road. We have Paris that we're still concluding. We have other routes within the continent, including Maputo, Luanda, Mombasa, Zanzibar. So that will be exciting, and we want to see how we can do that in the most affordable way. And as I mentioned, really how we can ensure that aviation is an economic enabler and not a luxury. We need more of our citizens traveling by air. So to that end, we need to make it more affordable. It's not the onus is not only on airlines, but how can we ensure that the airport charges come down? How do we ensure that ground handling charges come down, overflight, parking, all these charges which are built in fuel, which is a big component of our operating costs. How do we get jet fuel cheaper in order to get that ticket price lower and get more of our people flying?
Right. I want to let you go, but I want to take you back to the IATA chair position. What are your peers telling you? You know, when you have a close friend who's going to be at this, say, what are they telling you? When you get there, do this for us. What are some of the conversations happening within the corridors?
I think the most important one, because I'll also be the first African chair of the Board of Governors. I think what is exciting is how we can put African aviation on the global stage and showcase that the potential of African aviation, and kill that narrative of African airlines are this, African airlines are not safe, African airlines are so really how we can partner with with each other within the African continent, but also with other airlines, international airlines, to really tap into the full potential of aviation within our continent.
How is Rwanda already doing that? Working with other airlines?
Oh, we're working in various ways, whether it's from a commercial perspective. We have code share agreements. We have an extensive code share with Qatar Airways, which gives both airlines an additional, combined additional 65 routes. So for RwandAir, we operate currently about 24 routes directly. But from a code share perspective, it adds another 95 routes that our passengers are able to connect to. Through our partners, whether it's Qatar, Turkish Airlines, Ethiopian Airlines, and others. So from a commercial perspective, we are working with other airlines to see how we can expand our network. We are working with other airlines in terms of training, using their facilities, their simulators, in terms of maintenance, component support. So there's a lot of initiatives that we're working with each other, and I'd like to see that growing even further. How we can support each other to really tap into this potential.
Right. Finally, as a parting shot, there are those who probably every time they fly, their choice of airline is RwandAir over years. And probably today they might be feeling the experience is being shortchanged in one or another. But also we have those who are enjoying the services and the experience that they're getting through RwandAir. I need you to talk to these two groups of people. What would you tell them?
Well, to the ones who feel they're shortchanged, it's not our aim to do that. Sometimes we do fall short. We have disruptions, and we try as much as possible to rectify that. But we do aim to deliver quality service, on-time service as well, and we'll continue doing that. There's a lot of focus in terms of improving our customer experience at each touch point, not just when you're on board, but even when you're buying your ticket, when you're checking in here, when you're boarding, right through the passenger journey. So we're constantly looking at how to improve that, training our staff, and we'll continue doing that. We're fortunate to get the Skytrax Best African Airline staff last year. We'll want to do that again this year, and we'll continue investing a lot in terms of training, in terms of automation, our products and services to really deliver to our passengers' needs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to those who are happy with you,
to those who are happy with us, we'll continue delivering the quality of service that they expect, and we hope they'll stay with us, and we thank them for their loyalty and being with us throughout this journey.
Well, that does it for this CNBC Africa special. I'm Eugene Anangwe. Thank you for watching.